Howdys and salutations, y'all! How are we doing? Up here for another good afternoon, good evening, maybe good night? Well, however it be going, happy to have y'all back. Hopefully this is a good Tuesday afternoon, evening, what have you for you. Or morning. I guess people are all over the place, really, aren't they? We are probably going to pick up where we left off, although we left off not super far into it due to our little surprise guest last time, which was great fun. Not little, I haven't the faintest idea about them, frankly, but they were cool. So, what we're doing is we are going to be continuing drawing our Pokemon items. So, let's see. That means that we're looking at some of the items from recent Pokemon games. Let me pop open our reference here. Maybe, yeah, some of the Poke Foods. Mainly, we were looking at the ingredients from Sword and Shield for the curry. And show you an example of what we're looking at here. Yeah, stuff like this. And we were just going to try to see if we could draw some normal, modern, everyday objects in that style. Because I think it's really fun. It's not exactly minimalist. It's got very clean, simple lines, but it still has some interesting detail, and they handle it well. So, thought that it would be a fun little experiment, and another chance for a sort of different type of style study as we wrap up August and move into September. And I know we've talked about a lot of different possible September plans. We'll see what comes of it. I mean, if I had my way, I'd do Blender all the time, but I don't think it's really streamable yet because I'm very slow and still having to follow references and stuff all the time. Once it's streamable, I will let you know. Oopsie doodle, half a moment. Ah, okay, that might be better. So, hope the music wasn't deafening for anyone. But yes, so once Blender's streamable, absolutely want to do more of that. But in the meantime, I have found a couple of fun September challenges and some other activities, so we will absolutely keep jumping in on that. But where we left off, we had just gotten the basic outlines of our first item, a lava lamp. So, let us continue. Let me put away our fun little logo for EXC. I know I probably should have charged for an icon and stuff like that, but frankly, it was the last 15 minutes of stream. Figured I could throw it together in like 10 minutes and see if they were happy or not and go from there, and they were happy with it. So who knows? For all I know, they've minted it into an NFT or something, but hopefully it's all good, innocent fun. That is my hope here. So, back to our lava lamp. I'll put away the cute little, let's see, shadow with a top hat, I believe was the prompt. Let's see about create folder and insert layer. There we go. Sorry if I'm moving a little slow with my thinking today. I'd say it's been a long day, but days are typically about the same length, aren't they? However, whether it's allergies or what have you, I didn't get back to the stream until just a few seconds before I started talking. So I'm still reorienting, getting the gist of things. And apparently listing out like 6 different excuses in the process because I can't even orient my brain around the explanation of what actually happened. What happened was I forgot to refill my water and had to go sprint to do it before stream started. That is 100% on me. We'll pop that away for now. Let's see. Here we go. Oh boy, we do have a bit of cleaning up to do on this. I know we were having fun with the line tool. We may continue to. There's still some part of me inside that feels like line tool is cheating, but it's not. It's a tool that we have in our arsenal, and we ought to use it when the time is right. However, it's also not the only tool we can use. So let's clean up some of the odds and ends here, and then we'll jump back into it a little more. Okay. I have no idea what's on layer 1. Let's just put that, dump it in this one because it's out of the way for now. Okay, we've got our sketch, color, and inks as I like it. So on our sketch layer, let's erase a few of these odds and ends. maybe with the slightly more powerful eraser. And let's think about our proportions here a little bit. I know that we were basically doing, it wasn't quite 15 to 3, it was like 14 to 3.5. And I don't want to figure out what the heck that ratio is. Because I mean, I don't know. Even doubling to try to get, that's what, 28 to 7, 7, 14, 20. Oh, actually it's 1 to 4, isn't it? Oh, 3.57. Oh, okay, 1 to 4 then? Oh, then I think we've got some line tweaking to do here. Never hurts to have a little mental math. Well, I mean, it can. It depends on what mental math you're trying to mentate. And I'm fairly confident that's still not a word. Mentate. Okay, let's see. Control C, Control V, V, V. Okay, and then let's just start moving these up one at a time. That's what I thought. Got a little too short. Overcompensated on the last one. So we need about my actual screen, that's like a 1/4 inch, so that's what I'm gonna do. Boom. And then we can clear these other ones out. Let's see. My workflow is not really designed for actually just grabbing and straight up deleting vector lines. That's something that I'll have to think about. Whoops. If that's something I want to do more of in the future and adjust accordingly. Obviously, I'm still not quite gotten the hang of them. Okay, and this is slightly below halfway up and centered. That's looking also just on an eyeball. That's looking closer to what I'd actually expect anyway. Looking at my actual lava lamp I have here for reference. So then, from this sort of center point, we've got 2 things on the lava lamp. I'm just trying to mark out my proportions here because this is a proportion-heavy style. It carries a lot of weight. I'm just well, we are still in the sketch phase. So while I will use more of the line tool, let me also just get some rough sketch stuff going in here. Back to pencil from pastel. Okay. In my case, it divides about halfway. Whoa. About halfway down from between this section and the bottom. And it ends up splaying out at the end to about the same width. This top part here plays to, I'd probably say like even less than like it's quite thin. Maybe less than 1/3? And yeah, we'll try that. And then the actual like cap piece ends about here. Now, if we want to end up exaggerating these proportions a little in the final thing, and we very well might, then we'll do it. But for now, I'm trying to do just a realistic rendering. So, let's see. I would say this width is probably about 50% longer, split on either side than the top piece. And this width is roughly the same as this one. Everything I'm doing, I'm not actually measuring anything else at this point. I'm doing everything, just eyeballing it relative to the rest of the lamp. And we're gonna see how that turns out. I'm already feeling like I got this one a little, well, actually it's a little long compared to that one too. So let's shave it down to size a little bit. And like that is better. Okay. And then we're gonna go at it with the line tools. Because most of the rest of this particular stage is easily represented in solid lines. Now, the bottom won't be, and I'll explain why in a minute here. And actually, even this one won't necessarily be, but for outlining purposes, this is what's left. The top is feeling a tad squatty, I've got to admit. But maybe if I go to the original one, that's better. Okay. Yeah. I got a little overzealous on this. That's fine. Does mean that I need to pinch the bottom more as well, which actually does track comparing this to my actual reference. And I'm sorry that I can't show the reference on stream, but it's literally on my desk next to me. Nobody question why I own a lava lamp. I will not provide explanations. Yes, I'm aware I was born after like 1970. Nonetheless, I do actually have a lava lamp. Let's see. Oops, no. I mean, already we've got, like, you've got essence of lava lamp just from that. Like, you can tell what's going on with this. That said, when we were doing our study of the little milk carton last time, let's look at, oh, did I hide everything inside of this so that it doesn't show back? Yep. I noticed that they really do care about even some pretty fine details on this. You get like a little corner edge, like you get the shadows where the creases aren't quite right. So we do want to make sure that we're capturing that level of detail, not necessarily in the outline itself, but when we're doing the fill-in. And they have really smooth curves when they do have curves, as you can see based on the can reference and the spice. I don't know, vial, whatever the word you'd want to use there. Doohickey. Even that thing. You can tell the curves are very soft and smooth, so we are going to want to stick to that. So, knowing that, let's get our sketch and add a little more to this. Because before we do inks, there's more to do. First off, I know we talked about perspective a little bit in a past stream when I was frankly rambling meanderingly because I didn't actually plan to teach about perspective. I was just going to do random doodles, and I didn't think of anything else to talk about. So I just kept talking about perspective way too long. Let's see. Okay, got it. So one thing we are going to want to establish at this stage, and I know you may think, oh, they wouldn't actually have perspective in these examples, but they do, and I'll show it in a second, specifically in the sense that we're caring about it. Whoa, okay, come on. There we go. Stylus is back where I expect it. I really ought to put this actual lava lamp on a level where it's going to be a better reference. I'm sort of above the lava lamp entirely, and so that's giving me a weird angle. Let me set up a proper, I guess, still life, sort of. This isn't really what you'd use a still life for normally, but that's fine. It's also not really what most people would think of for a still life. The classic is like pitchers and baskets of fruit. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work for it. If you're gonna make a still life, make it out of stuff you actually want to look at, because by heavens, you're gonna look at it. So, jumping back into our lava lamp drawing here, we are gonna keep going. Still life is set up, and yeah, let's get our straight line. Whoa, straight line tool doesn't go there. Straight line tool. Let's grab our fun color here. Maybe make it a little fainter. And maybe throw it on another layer, just for the heck of it. First lines. Because my eye level is going to determine a lot about how we draw this, and it's doing that in the actual reference images too. Actually, in a lot of the references, you'll notice that like you're looking at it a bit from above, so maybe the lava lamp wasn't a good spot before, but that's okay. We'll keep going on it anyway. This is a good time to learn some of this stuff anywho. That said, it might end up looking out of place in an icon set. Anyway, I don't think we're making a full icon set out of this. So my eye level is roughly in line with about here. And that means that our horizon line is roughly in line with about there. We can move it up a little bit. Because eye level and horizon line are the same thing in a drawing. The horizon is eye level, full stop. So, what that means is that all of our perspective is going to be relative to this line. Now you might be thinking, okay, but we're looking at this straight on, like it's round, what perspective is even going to be in this? But there is some. Mainly, and we won't have to do it with a great deal of precision, But mainly what I care about, and the reason that this looks flat and not three-dimensional right now, is that if you have a cylinder and you're trying to draw it in perspective, the curvature of the actual round parts of the cylinder, the top and bottom in this case, is determined by where it is relative to the horizon line. So right now this just looks like a rectangle, right? Like you're just looking straight at it. But if we're below it, then the curves are going to seem to arc a little bit up. And suddenly you can tell, I mean, this sort of makes sense because you'd be able to see the bottom of the can when you do something like this, or the cylinder, or whatever it may end up being. The actual center line's there. The main thing is that like you've got the curves both the sort of, well, I guess the outline curve really does end up being sort of like this, but then the end you can see is the bottom. Yeah, maybe just a quick sketchy example is going to be better here. I don't want to spend all day on this. Likewise, if we were fully below the line, then you're going to see it like this, where we've got the one curve on the bottom and we can see the actual top surface here. There's the top surface down there, down there. If it happens to cross the line, then you're not going to see the top or the bottom. And it's just going to be like this. And this is where our lava lamp is, because a lava lamp, well, it's not exactly a cylinder. Basically is, well, it's basically a series of just wonky cylinders. I know the exact term's not cylinder. Whatever the, I don't know, spherical or circular prism of a trapezoid is, but it's sort of like a cylinder where one end's too big and one end's too small. That's absolutely fine, though. We can work with that. If anything, it makes it easier, because now we can construct shapes based on our knowledge of cylinders. So, throwing these little cylinder diagrams out of the way, I now know that any curves on this that are above the horizon line need to be curving up and away from the horizon line, sort of like this. Now, it doesn't have to be much. The amount of curvature is going to be more extreme the further from the horizon we are. But even then, like, this isn't a huge object, so we're not expecting, like, massive, insane, distant curvatures. It's still pretty close. But we are going to have a little bit of curvature here. We are going to clear this one out because, oh, right, layers. Awesome. And just a faint curve to this one. And we will, because this is a little bit transparent, if the curve was very big, we would be able to see it on the other side too. This one is just below the horizon line, so the curve is going to be very, very faint. Something like that, perhaps. This one being further down, but also not as sharp of a curve, is going to be a little bolder. And then this one being the furthest away, and our base is not only a bigger circle, but it's also going to have more curvature from its distance. And so that's what our actual curves are going to look like. In addition, and this is more a matter of the sketch, but there is one more curve I want to throw on our perspective layer first. And it's right about here. And it's so close to the horizon line that it's like borderline a straight line, but not quite. And what that curve is going to get us is something important for our actual sketch here. Now, I wish there was a way to just like set the transparency of all these lines to be half of what it is. I'm sure there is, but I don't want to mess with it without a layer mask because I still want to use this layer. Anyway, because what I'm going to do with the blue is that this is not quite just flush with the metal cap. This is basically, I don't know, it's like a glass bottle is what the material's like. It even has a bottle cap to seal it, on the one I have anyway, for better or for worse. And that means that it's actually inset just a tiny bit inside. Let's use our line tool. Let's get our blue going in here. And it's inset, but it's not just straight inset. The way it actually works, at least on the one I've got, can't speak for every lava lamp in existence. I haven't researched the make and manufacture of lava lamps. But yes, roughly down to there. Is that basically they sort of arc outwards and then back in. And they sit in the bowl on here. So that's what we're going to deal with. And the outermost arc of this curve may have some weird reflections or lines, but that's what this perspective one is for, is basically to help us line that up. Because it sits just above this one and fits into it nicely. Because this little metal piece is actually sort of like a cone-shaped bowl, really, that the glass part sits into. And we can, you know, draw ourselves some fun little gloopies. It's always more exciting if there's one actually in motion. Just as some little placeholder gloopies. We know that they're going to want that, based on our drawings last time, that we're going to want more detail on the gloopies than anywhere else. So in our finished drawing, we're definitely going to do that. Okay. Now let's actually do some proper drawing here. Now, first off, lava lamp is kind of a silvery gray. I'll do just kind of a soft. We can get a slight. What would be more interesting? I think we want this to be entirely cool colors, frankly. That's just sort of the way that this lava lamp works. So that's what we're gonna do. So, step one. Apparently accidentally pick a color that is almost indistinguishable from the invisible sketch below. So let's make that even more faint. And let's make sure we're on a vector layer with the vector eraser so we can clean this up quickly. Okay. So then. And then let's make sure we switch away from the eraser so that we're actually doing some proper drawing. Grabbing a point here, grabbing a point there. Maybe let's use the line tool since we said that's what we're going to do. And, oh, that is one more thing from our reference. They went with big black outlines for the whole darn thing. So actually, let's do that. I mean, like, they were bold. They're pretty bold outlines compared to the rest of the stuff in here. Maybe a 5 would be. Yeah, 5 is right. We've got one there. Got one there. You'll notice on the reference that the outlines do still follow any weird quirks, especially if you look at the plastic bag that the bread is in. So I am actually going to want to capture the slight insetness of this piece. Likewise for this one. And we can even exaggerate it a tiny bit. Make sure it really shows in the actual art and doesn't just look like we screwed up our lines. Likewise for these. Oops, let's try to make sure we're actually matching where we expect to be. Yes, that's fixable with vector tools later, but the less we have to do with vector tools, the better. Because that means A, I'm getting better actual practice, and B, I don't know, it's less effort when you don't have to go back and fix things. Okay, so we've got sort of our nice rounded edge into there, as the outline would want. Make sure we get a nice curve to match. And you'll notice this already looks like it's got a heck of a lot more volume than the previous one. Oh, that inner line, though, isn't actually going to be part of our black outline. Nothing inside the actual drawings is the same black outline. Even things that would be as thick, like the gray parts of the jar or the edge of the bread where it meets the actual, like, nice side of the slice, that is all still going to, at the very least, be different colors. It's not going to be part of the bold black outline. In fact, I don't think there's... The only one of these I see any actual black in, besides the outline, is the text on the curry box. And that is how we're going to try to stay true to that. Aye, aye, aye. Slow is not really the best way to do curves, or any line for that matter. You kind of want to get quicker stuff if you can. It allows you to create something a little smoother. It doesn't really bulge out, it just sort of turns in. Yeah, something like that. And I need to be able to mirror that on the other side. Okay. Yep, that's fine. This sort of it's there, so I guess the curve won't actually show in the black either, but we can replace that in a second. Most of these, the one exception is the actual jar, to show that it's glass and transparent. But most of and so we may replicate that on the glass section actually. But most of these do not then have a second inner outline that matches, but it does have an inner outline in the chosen color. So now that we've got this color set, let's drop this down to a 4, and let's actually do our curved line here. Maybe that ought to be a 5, we'll see. Likewise with this one, give it a little more curve than we did initially, just make it pop. Likewise with this one. Try to sort of split the difference between these two, methinks. And, oh, that one's actually part of the outline. We will probably want to smooth that with the vector tool a little bit. Maybe simplify. Yeah, it's better. If I'm not careful, though, it will accidentally smooth it into straight lines. But what I can do is just make what we've got smoother. Okay, nice. Now, I think on the glass, let's actually replicate. Because it's blue, this will be a little different, but that's okay. I want kind of a nice blue-green, but a deep dark one. I guess it's more blue than green, really. It's probably somewhere over here. Not the most appealing color, really. Maybe we can... Well, for an outline, though, you're not necessarily going for quite as much of that. Let's start with this. And I'm basically going to... I'm going to get the other side of this to show that it's inside. And to show that we're dealing with the glass, I'm going to follow their precedent from our reference here. And maybe actually use a straight line tool instead of doing what I'm doing. Let's do that. Dropping ourselves down to a 4. Just making sure we're directly parallel on this. Okay, and then actually what I can do is grab this and just scooch it over a little bit. Messing with control points is fun. It does allow me to give into my overly nitpicky side, though, so somebody stop me if I'm getting too far on that. Okay. And actually, I don't want this one to follow in on this one. I want it to just be that line, replacing the black one entirely. Oop, our vector eraser is a little big for the level of detail we're working with here. I guess I gotta get rid of that one fully before I can do this. Fine. Wait, let's simplify that a tad. I'm not going to be this precise on all the lines, I hope. Whoops. But for these early ones, whoa, what on earth is happening with this? Actually, like a loop? Whoa. Whoa. This is just an explosion of disaster. Goodbye. Goodbye. Oh, I don't want to lose the black one, though. Okay. I'm just going to pull all of these weird fragments out of the way and vector erase all of them, because I don't know what's happening with that, but none of it's good. Okay, take 2. There we go. Oh, I guess it's probably... Yep, I think I just did exactly what caused that mess. Okay. We'll try not to repeat that. Okay. Then... Yeah, it didn't... Anywhere where you'd be able to see it. Yeah, I think that's probably good. So then, we've got most of our actual outlines. I may end up darkening some of the silver we're using for that, for a reason you'll see in a second. Let's also get some of our goop a little bit. Pretty much all soft curves I'm expecting on the goop, but I do also want to admit that my goop is not actually blue. It is green. And given the bold color choices that they kind of like in this, let's make sure our green's got a little kick to it. Actually, I'm pretty happy with some of these shapes that we did initially, so I'm going to try to keep with them best as I can. I like that this one looks like it just sort of blurbled up from this point and is sort of moving its way forward. And we'll keep our sort of bottom layer of gloop in a decent way here. Looking like it's releasing something. Now, I suspect that we'll find that we're going to end up adding a few inner circle reflections on this, not unlike you may see with the bean on the bean can. So let's make sure that this is all connected in one thing. Simplify this edge. Then maybe add one control point. Clean it up a little. Pardon me. Okay. Not overthink it, because I'm bad about that, and the odds are no one's going to notice any of this stuff. But they will if I mess it up worse than it is. So, cool, got rid of that little edge. I say let's put away our perspective lines now, and let's maybe even put away our sketch. What are we dealing with? That is a pretty clean looking lava lamp, I gotta say. I may fix that little bump there. Easily done, really. And we probably want to, let's continue the blue so it goes all the way around here. And likewise on this one. Instead of following the curve down, I think let's, or at least in addition to following it down, let's also follow it up. Makes sense to do it on our full bold here. It also helps contrast it against the one that's behind, make things clear. Okay. Moving that down, moving these around. Okay. Okily dokily, however we want to do it. Guess this is probably a 4, isn't it? New choice. Now last, there's a curve tool, but like this, because we're already using vectors, like might as well just let's add a control point to that. Whoop, nope, this one. Pop that back where it belongs. Okay. Got some weird little black edges on this one that I don't think we're gonna want in the final piece. See if we can't put those away. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Move this in. Okay. Save. Make sure we don't lose any of our progress. That, maybe just a tad more. Okay. And let's think. I think I'm actually pretty happy with where we're at in terms of lines and stuff. So let's work on phase 2 of lines, which I'm actually going to do in its own layer because it might get a little messy and I don't want to mess up what we've got so far. LL inks inside. Because far from being completely lineless, I suppose most of these aren't necessarily demarcated in lines, but we are going to see some of that stuff in here. Let me see. Okay. And, oh, cool. Sorry, I just discovered something I could do with my bot. Okay. Might be some fun stuff for that later. I do think we may want our silver lines to be a little darker. Loath as I am to admit it. So let's actually tweak that a little bit real quick. I doubt there's just a vector recolor, although there could be. Eh. Someone's probably made one, but... Settings on this. Nah, okay, I'll stop looking for that. I guess... No, I can't even fill this one. I just have to select it on a different layer, perhaps, and fill with this, but again, I can't even fill on this layer. You know what? That's going to be a huge, significant undertaking. Not insane, but more than I want to mess with right now. We'll come back to it if we need to. Because what I've noticed on both the can and the vial is that they like to do sort of layered shadows. Pardon. What that means is that our shadows and highlights, especially the highlights actually, they've got, instead of doing like a smooth like transition, they have hard edges, which I like. But they do it in tiers. So there's like a really bright section you might see like in the middle of the can or sort of off to the left-ish section, like, right there. Left-ish section of the vial, direct middle of the can, really. And then it sort of tiers out. There's like another one there, another edge there, another edge, and so on. And the vial does it too. And what's really interesting on the vial, although it's super hard to see, is that as it goes up towards the top, it doesn't do like a smooth curve with the lighting. No, it literally does just like a trapezoid, which is really neat. And I think we're going to try to, since ours isn't going to have smooth curves in many places anyway for the lighting, it's, I mean, other than around the actual like curvature here, it's really just not going to have much in that sense. But it's all angled. So let's think about where those edges are going to be. Think about where the light source is. Let's maybe pop it, over this side, closer to the viewer. Actually, you know what? Let's just pop it on the horizon line. That'll make life a little easier. So, I don't know. Where did I put that? Here. We'll pop the light there. Should know better than to do swirlies with the vector tool. They're so hard to erase. So there's our light. And what that means is, well, basically, I'm just going to define sort of a spot and go for it. Whoa, line tool, please. We want sharp, sharp edges for this part. These definitely shouldn't be darker than what we're already working with. Let's start maybe here, because both of them, they've got an edge that's pretty close to the center. Helps keep things focal. And let's say it goes like halfway, and so it'll also go halfway around our bottom curve. Just an easy reference. And then we're going to have the same thing flaring out on this one. And you'll notice that we are keeping to trapezoids, because like I mentioned, that's sort of how they handled curves before, and this one really is pretty much just going to be a trapezoid. Let's see. Now, the interesting thing about these lava lamps, or possibly the interesting... Nope, it's... I was mistaking reflected light for the fact that I have two lamps on, and one of them is literally just casting a different light on it. So that's muddling things a little bit. I suppose I could turn the other ones off, get us down to a single light source. Pretty, a little more authentic with the shading. Although it's going to get a tad dark in here, perhaps. Do I want to turn this one off? No, I want to turn this one off. Yeah. Still a lot of reflected light, and my monitors are going to give off some amount. But it does mean that we can pay a little more attention to how these are going to sort of fade out a little. And so let's do another one here that's... I don't want to draw it right on the center line because it'll still be a tad distracting, but just a hair off of it. When something is like perfectly symmetrical, we tend to notice, just being human beings. And so I'm going to stick with that for now, and I want to make sure that I'm replicating this pretty much exactly on this upper one, although in a smaller sense. So what matters is really the proportions between them rather than the actual size itself. But it also does get a bit to where we just can't even fit it on there, so that's fine. I'm kind of okay with that. But what I also am going to do is basically one more on the blue itself. Same deal. Because the blue is glass, and it is going to be doing the same whoa! Instantly double tapped with the eyeglass tool. I want to make sure that that's lining up at an angle that makes sense, which it isn't, so I'll have to fix that. Maybe I should have done this one first to figure out where it's going to line up on that top one. Yeah, let's just do that actually. Let's remove the top ones. Let's figure out where the heck these are going to need to go on blue. Not quite center. And for the record, I don't think these are actually going to be final lines. Our halfway line. Then just like a little edge right off next to it. Basically merging into it, and then this one halfway between these two. Basically. But it is going to show me where to put my colors. And if I'm just using the color fill, then that's going to be nice to have the lines already there, basically. Okay. So that's not even really going to be distinguishable on that one. This one, however, might be. And that's getting us a little bit more authentic. Sure, we can go with that. Now, what we learned is that instead of handling a curved highlight like this, with a curve, we are actually going to want to just do sort of trapezoids inward, much like the style that we're trying to replicate. So I'm going to have these, they're going to end up aligning a little bit off. But that's okay, because it just shows the curvature of the glass. I do want to make sure, however, and this is where that pink perspective line comes in. Let's try to make sure that they're following, that all the points are landing on this curve, or else it's going to look a little weird, because we're basically defining where the glass starts to curve with where these intersect, like the actual like corners there. And so if that doesn't make sense with the perspective of the curve, it's going to be more noticeable than you might think. Like, it's not going to be something where you're like, aha, they misaligned their perspective on that. You're just going to look at that and be like, huh, that looks off. I mean, for example, I think even this probably ought to come in a little more. Vary those a tad. Well, maybe it's going to be further from the light source. Yeah, less variance as we get over here, perhaps. Trying to think through how that's going to work. Looking at my actual reference. Oh, okay. So maybe it is even going to be a matter of, I had it mixed up in my head. It's going to be more like this. The light's able to get further in because of the curve. Okay, and that does just look better, doesn't it? That makes more sense. Okay, other thing that's going to have more lines like this is I'm going to mimic the bean can. Boom, boom. For our gelatinous gloop. So we're going to have a couple different layers of gelatinous gloop tones. We're going to have sort of a this, and then kind of just one in the middle. Although I guess if we're thinking about the highlight coming from the left, that does impact, and lava lamps also tend to have a highlight coming from the bottom. So I should have done this before the blue, but that's fine. There's that, and then we'll even have like a big old one right there. Maybe like another there. All clean lines, don't want anything too crazy. So the way the lava lamps work, and I didn't know this as a kid, is basically there's just there's two chemicals in here, and one of them, in this case, are blue, basically just holds it, and when the green slime is warm, it's the other chemical, but it's kind of a goopier one. When it's warm, it's basically loosens up, and it becomes less dense and is able to float to the top, and then when it cools off, it floats back down. So the only thing in the bottom of this is just a big old stinking heating element. And that's all it takes. The actual mechanics of it aren't that complicated, although I'm sure anyone who studied actual fluid dynamics is going to scream at me for saying that, oh, it's not that complicated. I'm sure it's extraordinarily complicated in terms of the actual physics. But let's see. We'll fill in our silvers like this. But the actual like concept of it isn't anything crazy. It is still neat though. Like they are neat. I'm going to fill in those two with that one. And then I'm going to go for a slightly lighter tone for our highlight here. Likewise for the one in the middle here. And I'm going to go for a slightly darker tone. This ain't really the best way to do. Whoops. No. Oh, wait, there we go. I can redo. Let's get the darker tone and let's go even like a little bit darker. Now, if you want proper shadows, that's not really the best way to do it, but it'll work for our purposes of getting some clean looking stuff in here. And then likewise with the blue, I'm going to use our actual border tone for these sort of like mid-tier light darknesses. And then I really should have. We'll probably have to rethink how we do the greens a little bit in here, but that's fine. Okay, and then I want a slightly lighter for the central section. And a slightly darker for these edges that aren't quite in the highlight. Oops, that one needs to be a different tone of blue, doesn't it? Okay. I may have a way to make the greens work. We'll see. But there are a few things we'll need to tweak. First off, let's fix this. Let's see how this looks without the top ink layer. And actually, let's see how it looks without both ink layers. How are we doing? I mean, that is... obviously, it's missing the green goops. But that is recognizably like a clean looking lava lamp. What I do want to do, however, I wish I could figure out some better aliasing or anti-aliasing rather on the fill tool. Because I know it can be a higher resolution than this. Like if I get an actual pencil and just draw one pixel, oh, like yeah, you can see. Like it. Oh, okay, I guess that really is as fine as it gets. But I know we've got better, like with anti-aliasing, you can make that look much smoother. Actually, maybe that's the trick. Let's get the line tool. Let's go like crazy max anti-alias. Let's make it fairly thin. And we'll just maybe give this a run over real quick. Like right along the border. Boom, smoother feeling edge. Smoother feeling edge. And so on. Of course, with when we have the actual line work on here, we won't need to do this. But if we were doing this proper lineless, which, again, I love lineless art. That's like my favorite thing to do. But if we were doing it properly like that, we would maybe we could clean up some edges using this trick. Because that looks, I mean, that looks much, much better. And anywhere that the lines don't cover, for the record, we may still want to do something like that. Because we're not going to have lines over these actual reflections, so maybe we should blur them a little. There are also the actual, you know, just not liquify, but there are actual blur tools. Maybe it is under liquify. No, that's its own thing. Somewhere in here there are some. We found them the other. Here it is, the blend tools. Nothing crazy, but just sort of smooths out some edges. But unfortunately, that one does cause some other smearing, so we'd either want to get, like fingertip lets you do some real smears. Blend isn't so bad, but it does kind of try to share them across either side of the border, which we don't want. On this case, no political commentary is involved in this stream. Let's see. I guess this just lets me paint the whole thing over again, which is neat, but not what I need. I think what we probably want is just the blur, but at a smaller size. Yeah, that's giving us some of the same anti-aliasing that we were getting before, without causing too much overrun unless I really go for it. Okay, well, we'll look at that in a minute. Let's try to keep to our clean edges first. So first off, let's solve the green, because that's going to be an issue. I do want to use the same logic that we have been using, but we also want to make sure, well, I mean, we're assuming this green is being viewed through already, so like, I think maybe it's fine if it just covers the blue. So just unappealingly pixely. Oops, that one got out of hand. Interesting to know that that one doesn't detect as closed, maybe with a higher close gap. Whoa. With a lower close gap? Okay. Wonder what the deal is with that. And same thing, we're going to just go straight down for a little bit darker for the further out edge ones, which I guess is what that one should have been anyway. Further outline, darker for this section. And I'm going to go lighter for the really intense spots. Actually, for this one, well, the lighter is going to be the part that hovers at the top. It is going to be further from the light source, but it's also the part that's still warm, and so it tends to stay at the top. So the darker will be down here, more at the bottom. Oops, nope, not select. And then, yeah, I was right the first time with where I had this colored. Rats. You never want to correct yourself to being wrong. That's no good. Okay, so assuming we had no line work, again, some odd pixelation, but very clearly a lava lamp. And actually not a bad rendition, if I do say so myself, of the one I actually have next to me. Pretty happy with how that's looking. But let's get these lines cleaned up to be better. Now, I do think we are going to probably want to keep just the exterior lines. I don't think we want to keep those interior ones. They were all mainly designed just to help align these pieces. Oh, whoops. Let me... Also, I'm just going to go ahead and remove... Whoa, wrong layer. This layer. Remove that line because it's going to be behind the goo. And I'm not messing with goo transparency. Y'all are welcome to in your drawings. I'm not going to mess with that here. And now looking at this about the same size that it is as some of these other ones. I guess it's kind of tall, but that's fine. Tall and narrow. If I really wanted it to fit in the actual like pixel spread, I probably would have exaggerated the width more, made it look like kind of a funky wide lava lamp. Still would have been good. But what am I seeing? I'm seeing that I probably want a bolder width on my border line. But other than that, okay, so since we didn't really stick to pixel size, let's be more honest about the actual like comparison here. That feels more right. Okay. Still ought to have a bolder outline by like at least 1 point. And then I want to really smooth the edges, mainly on the green slime. I don't think it's quite showing the way we want it to. So let's see if we can't do that. One of those is supremely easy to fix. Oh, and the other thing I'm seeing is I ought to make this a darker line, or at least like parts of it. Let's bring it down. And we'll grab our pen and we'll do the, whoops, let's maybe make this actually the right size. Regretty redraw. I mean, we want to stick sort of in milk carton style, we can do it like this. Come on, let's actually curve if we can, thank you. A little bit on that side. And then what we can do Just use our thicken tool for everything else, and or at least for our border, and make it just 1 point wider. Oop, that's added an awkward taper on this one. That's fine. And I'm trying to think of a way to get the black line here without the blue. I don't think there's going to be an easy way to do it. Maybe we just accept that the blue is going to have it happen too. Which is actually probably fine. Whoops, okay, we'll have to fix a little bit there. I'm actually going to narrow this one down a little bit too. Just that was getting out of hand. And that said, maybe it's worth thickening these two as well. Even like a fair bit. Yeah, okay. Then let's grab our vector erase and clean up whatever this little odd. Okay, fine. We're gonna be like that. Let's grab our control point tool, because it's gonna make us actually dig that out. Move that one over. Telling me that this is, aha, there we go. No. Move the whole thing out of the way. Then both of these, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and toss. A little redundant where they were. Yeah, there's some errors with those final lines, but that's okay. Whoops. Guess this needs to, whoops. Coming out a little more like that. Okay. Huh, I guess something I did, whether the line thicken or moving something, seems to have moved the entire, whoops, the entire left edge inward a little bit. Well, that was not my intent. Go ahead and pop that down though. Okay, that should be fine. Let me simplify just the one. Yep, that'll do. It's fine. Huh, now that I'm seeing the bit exposed here, it makes me think that maybe I shouldn't readjust all those lines, and I should actually try to fix how I somehow must have grabbed the back layer site, like by accident. See if we can't fix just the whole alignment of the whole darn thing. No idea how that happened. There we go, that lines up along with this one. Now it does. Okay. A little bit of wonkiness there, that's okay. Oh, nope. Not a bring to front, I suppose. I guess that just means I need to redraw this one curve in a little more. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Knowing what we know, let's do two things. One, let's maybe get rid of the full green outlines on these because they were just placeholders and they're looking a little jarring. And two, let's have a little fun with our blend tool. I don't usually love the blur tools and such because, well, or blend or any of them. I mean, they certainly have their place for shading, but they're not usually what I would think of for a sharp edge. My phone has decided to notify me of some important information. That information is that I should take a shower. Thank you, phone. Appreciate that. But joke's on you, because I already did. Won't get one over on me that easy. And now it looks like right now, this still looks crazy pixely even after I'm doing this. And you would be right. But the secret is that, like, this sort of, like, we're getting now what we're getting in here is more of these, like, half-tone pieces between them. And that's going to help smooth things a little bit. Would have also probably worked if I had used slightly less different shades of green. If I'd kept them closer together, that would have been fine too. But, you know, I figure, let's see if we can't get these tools to work too, because we haven't used them much. We need the practice. So, smooth the pixeling out on this a little bit. Same deal for this one. This will help make things look a little better. Also, it allows me to get rid of some little minor errors that the fill tool left, as it's wont to do. We'll go ahead and pick up a little more of the super light green here. Clean up that blue that definitely shouldn't be visible in there. Grab our dark green, and I'm going to use it to take out this white pixel. But we're mainly using it for this edge. There we go. Getting some of these partial tones is definitely going to help. It is, however, going to mean that, like, if you've ever wondered why when you, like, try to bring a PNG and you're like, okay, well, I realize this, well, maybe not a PNG, one of those false ones that isn't actually transparent, one of those stinkers, and you're like, oh, why don't I just fill the background, or, like, just delete the background? And so you use fill, and then you get just horrible white pixels around everything. It's because of stuff like this. The fill tool is looking for, like, the center color, so it'd be looking for this deep blue, but it's not going to catch any of these sort of mid-tones unless you've got a clever fill tool like CSP has. And then you can set, like, tolerances basically for how much it's willing to put up with, and it'll just be like, yeah, that's close enough, I'm going to fill it. Which is really, really handy, actually. Yeah, I know CSP, Clip Studio Paint, looks like they're going to a subscription e-model generally in the future, but they're not, like, removing any old licenses. They just won't support it on new OS systems, most likely. So it's still going to be good, and that's not even happening until 23. So it's still a good program. Still one I definitely recommend. If you really are committed to the I'm not paying a subscription or anything, Krita is always open source, always awesome, really wonderful. I will say CSP is a little more powerful. In my mind, it justifies the current price tag. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what their subscription rates for 2.0 and what the benefits and all are. We'll see. But right now, I'm definitely sticking with it for the near future, and I'd say it's still one worth learning. Like, if you're having any hesitancies about that, because a lot of these skills, like the other tools may not have the exact, or the other programs rather, may not have the exact tools you're used to, but you'll figure out the techniques you're looking for, how to blur edges, and they'll pretty much always have some equivalent, some tool that can do something like that. Um, I'm thinking this probably ought to overlap the green, or at least the light and dark sections should. But I kind of would rather the greens pop, really. Since I don't want to spend all day on this as much as I'm enjoying our little lava lamp. I'm probably going to move on after this one. So let's zoom out. Let's see how it's looking. Much better, wouldn't you say? Like, even just comparing, like, there's still a little warble on this, but comparing it to the sections above and below in the gray that we still need to clean up, like, it's so much better. Whoops. We can go for slightly bigger on this one. Maybe just one clean pull all the way down is the way to do it. Oops. I don't want to get too much warble on it, or else it's going to look jarring. I do still want those clean edges. That's part of the joy of even using the straight line tool and the fill tool. Let's see, does that still look okay? Yeah, it does. In any reasonable size, I'd say that it looks more like the reference ones in terms of what you'd expect. So we'll keep cleaning up there. At the bottom edge of this. The shadow also makes that a little more definite, even if it's not the cleanest line in the world. I'm sort of replicating the milk carton shadows for that one, which may not be the right type for a metal versus like a kind of papery cardstock surface, but I think it's going to work okay. Oops, got a little out of the way there. But yeah, let's see. Even though this is like a pretty simple little icon, it still uses, I'd say, a surprising amount of like actual proper techniques in order to make it look good, wouldn't you say? We had to use perspective, we've had to use different types of shading and blending. I have somehow grabbed the entire thing and dragged it out of alignment again, haven't I? What on earth am I doing to do that? No idea. But it looks like it's fine now? Or... There we go. Okay, last little bit. Almost done. And then we'll take ourselves a brief pause and we will pick up with the next part. We can do more than a little bit of cleaning up on this one because it got a little wonky, I'll admit. Which is normal. When they're small like this, line tool doesn't always play nice. Oops, okay. Save. And now I'd say we're looking at a pretty darn good lava lamp icon. Now I love this style because when you have something like this with its clean edges, like this is the kind of thing where you could make keychains or stickers or something like this, and people might actually want them. So if you're looking for styles of that sort, something that you might be able to, you know, sell or just distribute, like say you want something memorable, something good for a business card, this sort of clean-edged, professional-looking shape is really nice. And while it's professional, it doesn't look like, you know, the fake super professional styles. It just looks clean. It looks well done, well executed. People are going to look at this and be like, hey, that person knows how to art. But you don't actually have to know that much how to art. Like, sure, we talked about perspective and all, but you can fake that by just sort of curving the lines roughly. If you've got a good reference, you can just look at it and you don't have to think about the perspective. You can just be like, that looks like it curves down. That looks like it curves up. That looks like it's fading away in a certain direction. Like if you look at the actual like references over here, they did not spend a huge amount of effort on perspective. They spent enough to make it look good. Like this has the perspective of down in one side, but like if you're talking about things fading as they get into the distance, we're not working on distances where that's big or really has much of an impact. We're working on normal distances. I think they went kind of like just straight up isometric for the actual perspective on this, so there's not a lot of anything like that. And so, you know, you don't have to know anything crazy to do this. And I think the only weird, crazy things I either explained in this video or at least hopefully named them. So if my explanations made no sense, which is very possible, I admit, you'll still be able to go and be like, ah, okay, I can look that up. I can find someone who actually knows what they're doing teaching it. Because as you all know, I am as much a learner as I am sharing the knowledge. This is SwSh is very much here to document the learning process, learning how to do this stuff. So, I am quite happy with this little lava lamp. to the point where I genuinely kind of want it on a sticker so I can put it on like something. I had to apply this sort of mindset and styling a little bit, thinking about the types of clean edges and how it's not quite lineless. The weight of the border, that also is part of what makes it look stickery or keychainy, by the way, is that very thick border makes it pop and makes it look like it's actually distinct from everything around it, as you'd expect a keychain to be. It sort of simulates a shadow a little bit, makes it definite, gives it form. Anyway, I'm sure I had a thought that I was launched into for something there, but point is, it'd be fun to do this with some other stuff, using this style, apply it to. There is a line of stickers or keychains or what have you. Maybe do one of those Redbubble themes where you just put it on everything. That I wanted to do of like national landmarks. I guess international landmarks for the nations in which they exist. Stuff like the Colosseum and the Eiffel Tower. You talk about obvious stereotypical ones. But my focus, my area of interest, really, my area of study as well for most of school, is medieval and earlier history. So I'd like to really find some weird medieval castles, medieval landmarks, maybe even medieval clothes. I've been doing a little research on that. Just different things from that era. And, obviously there's plenty of fantasy stuff out there, but there's not so much like actual old style proper medieval stuff out there. And I think that's a niche that could be filled. That stuff's fun. So, by the way, if you're ever looking for a read that is both dense and really entertaining, Le Morte d'Arthur, great read. I say the actual Arthurian tales. The origin of a lot of the ones you might be familiar with, or at least the origin of them in English. It was sort of a compilation and edition and translation made by a very interesting fellow named Sir Thomas Malory, who was imprisoned during the War of the Roses for a number of proper heinous acts. He really did deserve to be there. But he was like a noble, so his version of prison was basically like a nice, probably more than just a studio apartment. Nice quarters in a castle someplace. And so he had a bunch of books. And what he had were a bunch of the old French Arthurian tales that had been expanded upon greatly, but originally inspired back by some of the early British, and I guess to no small extent Welsh, to give credit where it's due, tales that were captured, that were spread after the Battle of Hastings and more cultural spreading and all that jazz. I seem to have gone on to a bit of a lecture about medieval history, which I'm sure isn't the reason most of you logged in, although I'm happy to oblige anytime someone is interested. But yeah, it's a great read. It's a lot of the Arthur tales with all the fun French editions. And if you think, oh, I don't want the French editions, France added Lancelot. You want the French editions. There's a lot of the myths really came into their own. Like reading the original ones, like Killhook and Olwen, really great stuff too. But like the French ones are awesome. Like it's a good time all around. Okay, let's see. We've got our lava lamp. What's something else we might want to do in this style? I know we're sort of towards the end of the month, and I'm kind of wanting to do some new stuff in September. So I don't want to launch into anything that's going to take a crazy amount of time. Let me check my notes. Pardonnez-moi. What else did I write down? That's the other thing I wanted to do. And we might actually be able to do a reasonable facsimile of it in a short amount of time. Let me take a sip of water, turn the rest of my lights back on, because frankly it's gotten a bit dreary and dark in here. And the weather's been crazy enough lately anyway. So what I'm gonna do is one of them whiteboard wall calendars. Kind of thing you'd see in like a back to school scrapbook sticker set, or more honestly. I don't know anyone who would buy a sticker of a whiteboard calendar, but I'm sure someone would. There's always a situation. And you may not believe me that there's always a situation until you find yourself looking for that one thing that inexplicably doesn't exist anywhere except on some weird, obscure Etsy seller's page for like $1,000, and you're like, crud. um, or if you're lucky, it's on some weird, obscure Etsy seller's page for like $2, and you're like, hey, that's exactly what I needed. Why on earth did someone make a sticker of this? And it's got like 2 sales ever. I don't know if this is a shared experience or this is just me. Maybe I look for weird stickers. That's extremely possible. I guess the blurring actually affected the lines themselves. That's interesting. Maybe I should have not blurred on the line layer. Although that's a wild effect in its own right. I'm not sure it's a great one. Oh, yeah, let me make it so y'all can actually see that. My bad. My bad. So these are the final 2 layers. This was just kind of an alignment thing, and now it's out of alignment anyway. This was obviously our early sketch. Can't even really see it anymore, but it got the ideas across, and I think we were able to translate it. So yeah, let's pop these in the proper folder for them. Create folder and insert layers. Lava lamp. Boom. Okay. Saving that, and we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna take one more sip of water though, because I have been chatty, especially for a Tuesday. I never have energy on a Tuesday. Okay, maybe this is just me, and I shouldn't invite the wrath of Tuesdays. Tuesday's the worst day of the week. Monday gets all the flack. All the flack, and Mondays aren't necessarily fun, although they can be. And I think credit where it's due, sometimes a good Tuesday rolls around. But here's the thing. Main issue with Monday is that it just cut off your weekend and you're like, the work week's ahead of me. Tuesday, you have all the exhaustion of getting back into the work week. All of, like, you're in the thick of it. You've already kind of forgotten the weekend, so you're just swallowed into the time. But you still basically have the whole darn week stretching ahead of you, so there's no hope in sight. It's not like Monday where you're like, I've still got the fun memories of the weekend. I've still got a little energy built up from the weekend. At least like mental joy energy, if not actual like slept well energy. Um, I know how Sundays can go. But like my word, Tuesdays, you're already tired and there's still no end in sight. It's just a bad time. And I stand by that. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, depending on the week, if like say a lot of the nasty work is backloaded in the week or front loaded or distributed weirdly, sometimes Wednesdays are the nastiest day. They absolutely can be. And I get being exhausted by Thursday, but Thursday there's hope. Because even if tomorrow isn't the weekend, tomorrow is still Friday. And Friday's a good day. So knowing that you're close to Friday, I'd say goes a distance. But Tuesday, you're close to Monday, so you've still got the bleh kicking off the week stuff. But you're also just like in the endless vast expanse of misery. Assuming you've got a bad week. Now, of course, if you enjoy your job or you get well rested or what have you, maybe it's a good time. But even on a good like week, I find Tuesdays are just tiring. You're just like, ugh, there's so much. That's part of why I stream on Tuesdays actually, is so that I can say no matter how much of a mess the rest of the day was, I did something. I did something, I had a little fun, I wound down at the end of the day. And I think that's good. I think that's worth doing. Streaming, I know a lot of people go for hype streams, and I know I don't ever shut up while we're streaming. So my apologies to anyone who's actually coming here for, a completely restful time. Probably something I ought to work on. However, not gradient. One day we're going to mess with gradients. There's some really cool stuff you can do with gradients and gradient mapping, but not today. But yeah, like Tuesdays, I like having the stream. Like it's still a relaxing time. Okay. Secondary note on this particular drawing, I'm going to put notably less effort into it because we have spent I'm going to try to get this done in the next 45 minutes. And that means that I can't afford to nitpick. And usually that results in better drawings, frankly. But there's also a fair chance it won't. There's a fair chance I'm going to nitpick anyway, and we're going to have half a drawing by the end of this. I hope that's not the case. I hope I can keep it together. So I'm just doing some, like, I call this simulated perspective, because I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not actually drawing out perspective lines. Like, it's not proper isometric either for anyone who might suggest that. I'm just saying, like, bleh, there. Looks like it's what it should be. Boom, done. Next up, let's get a gray, and let's get a darker one this time. My word, that last one washed out so bad. I always do that. And let's match it up. 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 Because if we can get to where we can do one of these in like 30 minutes even, or proper 45, whatever it takes. I mean, heck, even an hour, like we could still make like a sticker sheet every week, and that's enough to actually fuel like a shop, which would be super fun, because I don't plan on making money off the streaming necessarily. I'll be honest. Like, look, I would love to. It'd be super fun. I'm still going to try to do the networking, build an audience, all that jazz, and I want to meet new people and actually chat with them. As much fun as it's been having somewhere between 0 and 1 viewers, and I think a total of 17 seconds of watch time this stream, like, I'm still getting a lot out of it just from the streaming. Like, it'd be fun to have more people here. I want to have folks to chat with, but also if it's just me, that's fine. However, I would someday love to actually be able to, make some amount of money off of this. And I realize the big stuff, people think of like big character commissions and stuff, but I'm thinking like, you could do small stuff. You could do an Etsy or a store envy might actually be more my jam. We'll see. Been doing a little bit of research. Haven't reached a conclusive answer just yet. Maybe we want ever so slightly off-white. Wall, cal, call. Whoa. Whoa. What? I'm running into the milk carton. Why am I running into the milk carton? No, I do not want to do that. Ah, here we go. This will be our master layer, methinks. Nope, that still didn't do it quite. That's bizarro. New salute. Whoa. Not that. Although I bet we could find the lava lamp. No, that's not the milk carton I'm hitting either. What line am I hitting? No, not those. Okay, it's not part of this little logo, is it? Nope. Is it the milk carton? No. Well, I'm baffled as to what it's looking at. Refer only to editing layer. Is there a line in there? If I take the vector erase to this and just scrape some stuff out, is it then gonna work? Oh, that's weird. That's weird. I don't like that. I don't know what that is. But anyway, yes, it'd still be fun to be able to make money, and then I could stream more, because, I'd be streaming making things. And, maybe wouldn't need the full-time job, although, I mean, I'll be honest, insurance is hard to replace. And it's very tempting to not get rid of it. So we'd see if that's ever a reality. Let's see, this really is only the lowest possible section. Oops, that shouldn't be on the wall. Well, actually, yes it should. Because it's just a line for this to fill up to. Yes. And I'm not going to try to recreate the whole darn thing, because this is a style that favors simplification. Okay, real quick, to finish my thought that I've now gotten distracted on twice because I can't seem to draw and think about anything other than what I'm drawing, which I guess makes sense. Be fun to make money off of this. But I don't necessarily see that happening through streaming itself. I see that happening through starting a store that caters to other audiences beyond the stream, and then just streaming the process and also doing other art and fun stuff on the side. But this is a style that has actual potential for that, so I want to help refine and practice it. Because this isn't like specific to the Pokemon style. I'm just sort of looking at how they've happened to do it. But stylizing your own things like that's there's a beauty in that in its own right. Of course, maybe, in 5 years, everyone's just going to use everything made in DALL-E or some later equivalent, and we won't need artists at all. I hope not. I, I hope that's not the case. I'd be a bit bummed out if it was. We got ourselves a nice soft gray on here. Nothing crazy. Because I like doing art. And while I find it fulfilling in its own right, it's also, be nice to still be able to make money off of it, you know? You know? Let's do at least a 4 on this. Thinking maybe a 4x3 of spaces on here. And I'm thinking we're going to have to up the line thickness a little bit too, truth be told. We're getting down to 30 minutes left. My ramblings have eaten all of our time. Oh no. Whoops. Oh, these definitely shouldn't be on wall color though. These should absolutely be on the lines. Let's think about our alignment real quick a little bit. If we're talking about, I'm looking at one of these calendars that's sort of like this. You've got like, I don't know, the month's name. Whoa, okay. Month's name here. We'll just put like some squiggle representation of language. If I were smart, we'd prep some like actual fun squiggle character sets and not have to come up with stuff on the fly. Because you never know when you're going to accidentally boggle into something by accident. Let's see. Ought to be something believable. Those look almost like letters. I mean, if we were doing the Pokemon style, we wouldn't even bother with that. We'd just do another, like, even super simple line, which may be what I end up doing for this. Even make it like a really big one. Yeah, that seems right. We can put some actual squiggles for anything that might be hand-drawn, but we'll keep it like this for now. And actually, on that note, let's get bigger lines going in here, and maybe some softer grays for some of this other stuff. Nothing too blue though. We don't want it to be too untouchable. Really ought to do something like this. Whoops, nope. What was I on? 10? I think it was 10. It was 8, wasn't it? So close. Let's keep on going with this. Give ourselves some line work. And yes, I'm basing this one off a wall calendar I actually have, in case that isn't blindingly obvious. Okay, so there are some issues with taking this approach we'll need to deal with. Oh, no, because I want the rounded edges, so I don't just want to take an eraser down the full length of the thing. Maybe I'd actually just have a guideline, or a grid I can snap to. I know there's ways to do that in CSP. Let's just clear all that out. That across. I'm so glad that I'm streaming today. Because I'll be honest, I'd gotten on one of those, I don't know, doom spirals on the web. You know how they be. And how they be is stinking worthless. Waste of time. Fills you with misery, doesn't actually get you to take any real actions. If it's not actionable, there's no point in like paying attention to it at all. All right, if I want this to actually snap, I need to be using this tool. I'm getting too deep in precision, not thinking about actually important things. If I really want to make that work, I ought to, well, not do that for starters. But you know, we can even give this like a little eraser if we want something fun, or some magnets. Let's actually stick with some magnets, because I think that's going to be easier to represent in a style that is not jarring. We'll see. We'll see. Because what we really need to do, and maybe this should be a not a 12, but let's do 8. I think genuinely. It'll be roughly starting in the same. Whoops, maybe not the bright pink on this. My bad, my bad. Starting in line with this and in line with that. So roughly about here, might say. Go across. And let's go down. And, yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm still thinking like 3x4 is the way to go. We'll see if I even bother with the whole grid, or if we want to simplify to just like some right corners, maybe. Because one thing is that I do plan on getting rid of this. And those magnets aren't in a good place. And, actually, let me use the Selectee tool at a slightly smaller size, mayhaps. 20 perhaps? 30 perhaps? Yeah. I'm gonna scoot all of this over just a hair. Center it, you know? If I want these to be believable, they ought to be a different color. Because I want that to be plausibly handwritten. Okay. Maybe 3x5 even. Oh, that's gonna make it so much worse to subdivide, though. Yeesh. And even that's already not correct. Something like that. Okay, and then we can go down to a much smaller size. Oops. Much smaller size, I say. Something like that. Clear out the excess. There we go. That way I don't have to try to line up a whole bunch of lines individually. I mean, that's already looking believably like a calendar. And pretty close to the style that we're actually looking for. I might, let's see, grab some of this, take a slightly darker variant, use it as a line for just across some of it, maybe at least a size 6. There we go. Save some of that. And you know, maybe, or not erase. I want the color picker. Grab this. I was trying to grab the line width of this. My brain was like, I just need to color pick the line and I'll have the right width. No. But I do also just remember that that happened before. Let's try these again. I think they're maybe a little too blocky for what I'm going for here. Not worrying so much. Whoa, nope. I'm not going to worry about maintaining the round edges on these ones. I'm just going to try to draw a bunch of roughly evenly spaced lines. And eyeballing widths just takes practice. Like, it's actually not some horribly difficult thing to do. I hate to say it, but you just sort of have to get your eye in. It's like shooting a bow and arrow or anything else. Like once you take a few shots and you're like, oh, okay, that's where, like, like you shoot once, you're like, okay, I know the arrow, like if I'm holding it and the point of the arrow looks like it's at the center of the target and I shoot, it flies way under because I forgot about gravity. So you take a shot aimed way above it and you go too far, and eventually you sort of hone in on the right spot. That's how it gets to be with drawing equidistant lines, and even these, you can tell they get a little too close together at the bottom. Um, that's okay. That's okay. Let's see. That doesn't look like a straight line of an eraser at all. But I can't use the vector eraser because I'm not actually trying to vector erase. And I don't know that I can just get this to, oops, stay in a straight line. Oh! Forgot about this. Aha! First time I've ever found this to be useful and not extremely frustrating instead. There we go! There we go! Look at that! Get ourselves even some stuff in here. If we want to try to do like symbols and such, but we're getting kind of pixely and such. So on. If we want, another way we could try to do to keep that a little more simplified would be to just drop a circle in there. Let's see. Oh yeah, we could even do something like that. Let's see. I feel like we'd really want to fill it in, truthfully. Or maybe not even a full, or just an ellipse, but like wide. Big brush. Whoop, too big a brush. Too big a brush. Go back, go back. Keepers. There we go. Maybe like a 10. Man, undo isn't working. That's weird. I don't. Oh, it's because I've got some sort of vector selecty thing going. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay, let's maybe just go back to the pen and drop down like a 12. But I actually kind of want to anti-alias this less. Blur is jarring. Go for slightly softer and lighter. There we go. Adds a little bit of variance, adds some interest. Let's see. We can even do a little bit with the line tool, assuming I can ever find it. One complaint is I don't like that the actual icons up here change when you change tools down here, because sometimes stuff is not nested where I expect it to be. And that gets confusing. Let's see. Add a little bit of interest with some of these. I just don't want to accidentally create like a pattern, because that's going to be noticeable, a little too noticeable. Like even this sort of has too much pattern, unless maybe I add something here. There you go, our calendar is starting to come to life a little bit. And I think we've got our two sort of main accent colors. So I'm going to try not to deviate away from this pink and this blue, or I guess it's more of a magenta, but what have you. Whatever you prefer. I think that's too busy. Let's stick to one color per line. Honestly, even maybe the magenta over there is too much. Let's see, what would be some fun stuff to have is sort of thumbtacks, because I'm thinking this part down here is maybe one of them corkboard type dealios. We want like a thumbtack, and then up here we'll probably want some, I don't know, like erasers or magnets or some such. Also, I'm going to replace my text up here. Oh, it's the pitchy song. Sorry, I got to skip it. Like, this one's pitchy, but that one's pitchy. Let's use our blue for this too, actually. I'm going to try to follow that, like, 90, or like the, oh, what is it? Like the 70-20-10 rule or something like that. Thereabouts. That'll be a close enough approximation. In terms of colors, where you've got, like, an accent color that you use really infrequently. And then you've got, like, your sort of main eye pop color, and then you've got like your main background colors. In this case, our background color is even like probably just the white itself. Oh man, I was really hoping that gray text was not on this layer. Oh well. Oh well. We can still fix some of that. I see. I see where my mental flaw is. Well, fill tools are pretty good. Let's just clean this, maybe. We can now throw this on top, and I can still trace with blue. It'd be fun to come up with like a whole non-actual alphabet sometime. I like games that have a consistent, and stories and anything else that has a consistent, like, non-alphabet alphabet. Always, like, the world feels so much more real, you know? Um, let's see. Because it really does add, like, it makes the world feel like it's got a cohesive language. Like, the biggest example I can think of off the top of my head, although a lot of things do it, but Hollow Knight. Like, holy cow, like, like, verbally too, the bug language and talking is consistent, but then in-game, like, signs and scripts and everything you see follows that same, like, bug language, and it's so cool. I really like it. And, like, having one that's got a distinct look that also matches the flavor of the world. Flavor's the word you want to use for it. I think this is too dark for where it is. Whoops. Yes, this. No, okay, I'm just... whatever. Fixed. But yeah, when it matches the actual flavor of the world, it really does make it feel more alive and more cohesive. It goes such a long way. Let's see. Of course. Why have I done it like this? But I can do it. Let's select. Let's grab ourselves. I think 30 is still right. I think centering was the right call, but let's also make this a tad bigger. That's okay. And then we can. I love being able to do that with multiple layers. Oops, oops, oops. I guess I need to actually pay attention to where I'm putting that. If the blue is on the color layer, that's fine. Yeah, you can do a lot with just 2 layers, but there are some things where it's convenient to have a tad more than that. I'll be honest, for like 30 minutes, I'm actually pretty happy with where this is looking, but I think we can add some more details. Make it look used. Let's grab our pink here. Let's throw like, whoa, maybe not on this size. Let's look at maybe a 4. Sort of like a common default filler shape. Everyone loves the stars. They're a sign of a job well done, and they're also, once you know the trick, an easy shape to draw kinda well, and a very hard shape to draw really well. Oops. But also, perhaps I ought to stick to a even more simplified visual language than that. Let's do this on the actual line work level, whatever details, so I can just pick them up and move them around relative to the background. I'm trying to think about thumbtacks. I'm trying to think about... I mean, thumbtack could just be a cylinder. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. We'll do them in sort of our blue. I'm trying to think, because it should have like a nice sharp shadow and maybe even an outline for something like this, even though it's small. I think that'll be good. Maybe a darker blue. Has that got too much depth and detail compared to everything else that's distracting? Maybe not if it doesn't have, whoops, like some of that back part there, the blue, and it's really just like the outline. The blue that pops out is too much. Now we're getting to the part where I'm kind of futzing about with it too much. It's a fun word. Not a foul word if anyone tries to call you on it, at least not as far as I'm aware. Because I don't swear. We are family friendly, even if our channel isn't necessarily aimed at children. Thanks YouTube for making all of that extremely complicated by not taking responsibility for your own legal actions and dumping that burden on every single user instead. But it's yeah. Let's see. Okay, here's a thought. What if instead of that, thinking about our, like, sort of the references I've been following for style a little bit. Whoops, nope. But this. Look at these spots. A little bit of texture spots, some lighter, some darker. Don't you think that would fit a pegboard pretty well? Let's see. Let's see. Then, if I want to take this color again and just lighten it a hair, then do like a similar thing, maybe. That adds a little bit of texture without being terribly distracting. Once again, thank you to our Pokemon references for something useful on this. I gotta say, like, I'd hate to just steal the style full stop, and I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to fully, well, with these I'm sort of trying to copy the style, but I like this minimalist, and I'd like to refine a variant or like a new thing sort of inspired by this. Because this is, like, I mean, that's what I said when I first picked these as a reference. Like, and even in the game, I was looking at that, it's like, if I saw that on a shelf, I'd buy it. That's better than most of the actual, like, logos and layouts and advertising I see. And maybe that's because it doesn't have to, you know, actually convey any information at all beyond what the product itself is. So it's not beholden to committees or regulations or anything there. Who knows? But like, I don't know. I think it looks really, really sharp. I'm going to try to clean up some of these corners a little bit. Make some of the edges a little more believable, a little more consistent. Come on, vectors, work with me here. I'm not sure that's actually doing me a favor with those two. No. Whoops. Okay. Maybe we could, if we use the lighter gray and instead of a 15, we did like a, maybe like a 10. We could get away with this. The month placeholder. Wondering if that makes it look too busy, honestly. I will use a little bit of my vector tools to clean up a few tiny places where it'll make a difference. Let's see. Whoops, no. Just that line. Just really sharpen it up a little bit. That looking nice. And this is fun. Okay, I'm actually pretty happy with that. I don't mind the white space in the top right. That's looking pretty cool. Gonna make for an interesting thumbnail for today's video. Trying to fit both of these in. But okay, yeah, I hope I didn't fall silent there too long while I was messing with stuff. Then again, I do say that I never stop talking, though, and I stand by that statement. I don't ever. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I've got anything else planned for today. We're going to kick off some new stuff for next month. We may wrap up a couple minutes early today. Well, I'd like to go to the full time if I can. I know we stream started a little bit early today, but we also, some of that was warm-up time while I refilled water and all that jazz. Also, thanks to everyone who did follow yesterday. It was fun chatting with y'all on your streams, and I'd love to see y'all again. I'm going to try to drop by. Good times, good times. But yeah, few things for next month, possibilities. I know we've talked about Blender. I need to figure out if I have the time and energy to do Saturday streams, because if I do, then I'm doing Blender all the heckin' way. But it's one of those things where it's really, you kind of, at least with my current skill level, I kind of rather would have just like 4 hours to really sit and dig into it, figure out the math, figure out the logic behind it. It's so fun. It's really fun. I'm enjoying it more now than when I actually took the original 3D modeling class back in the day in Maya. But part of that, is because I've got the skills I built up from that. Even some of that stuff's really old, but I've still, that stuff sticks. At least bits and pieces and sort of intuitive navigation. And so, it has made it easier because I did that. But also, like, oh, it's so fun. I followed the Blender like donut tutorial up through. I watched the animation video, but I didn't actually do that one. I may have to at some point, but I don't know. Animating on a Bezier curve isn't like that revolutionary of a concept or unique to Blender specifically. Kind of neat that it can do it, and some of the stuff they had to think about in positioning was relevant. But like, I've messed with that before a little bit. I don't like, so we'll see. But maybe it'd be worth digging into. Something fun to post on the channel. But I also don't want to just directly follow anyone else's tutorials one-to-one on this channel, because I don't want to be stealing their content. That feels like just reacting to someone's video. Like I'm not contributing that much there. I don't know, maybe actually recording and following the tutorial and stuff for some things would be relevant, but with Blender, like, I don't know. Yeah, I'd rather do my own stuff once we're actually doing that. So that's part of why I'm sort of holding off a little. Other September things, though. I did find an excellent guide on like it's basically a list of art like challenges for every month. Because there's so many of them now. Inktober was one. I know it's sort of fallen out of grace. Cool of a premise and set of premises that it was. The increasing weird copyright nonsense is increasingly weird copyright nonsense, and do not want. So steering clear of that. We'll probably move into some other places. But for September, one that I'm excited about and I hope actually happens, well, there's two. One of them is called Sketchtember, and I don't know if I necessarily want to do that for the stream, but just doing a daily, like, 6 to 10 minute sketch or something like that. Really good practice, really good discipline building, something I want to work on even more. Streaming has helped with that, but actually doing it is better. And, man, my stream overlay looks so silly right now. Just, the spice must flow. Put it on the calendar. It must flow. But yes. So Sketchtember would be a good one, but Swordtember, where there's a different prompt every day and you're just designing a sword based on it, sounds like an absolute blast. And that helps with one skill that I'd want to build in a roundabout way, character design. And a character could be a sword, it could be the setting. Like, characters aren't limited to living entities necessarily. And I don't just mean the sense that you could have the sword or the setting have a chat, although you certainly could, but in terms of design, figuring out taking some ideas and being able to translate that into a new concept, or even like a new idea of an existing concept, is still refining those design creativity muscles, and that's something that I've always felt was a weak point for me. I mean, you can see I'm attracted to very simplistic, clean designs, and while there's still a lot of creativity required in that, I like analytical. I really do, which is part of why art is both a struggle and a great joy, as it forces me to break out of that a little bit. I can still be analytical when it matters, but also I've got a little more flex, which is just nice. But yeah, and you know, art requires a mix of both anyway. So I'm just trying to build up some of the areas I'm weaker. Character design is one of those spots. I think sword design is an easier first step into that, sort of a baby step as we move into better character designs. Because I mean, yeah, I can do a design, but they always turn out a tad generic. Even Salt, who is a character I absolutely love, I'll admit isn't the most unique design, and part of that was inspiration from a friend who was doodling them too. So like, I want to come up with my own stuff, and I realize you'll never be free. Like, everything builds on stuff, but I want to be able to do something that isn't generic, you know? I still think one thing I want to do is like my appliance nights, or even an appliance fantasy setting, where everything in the setting is various household appliances, or at least all the people are. Like, the knight is a toaster. Like, you've got an elven wizard who's, I don't know, curling iron or something. Like, or at least like have that be an intrinsic part of their design. And I think that would be a fun challenge that really forced me to actually like take a few stabs at each of them, find something that works well. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe the swords. Maybe we will. Pardon me. I'm also trying to work this week and next on setting up some more of the account, like a place to actually store the art besides just the VODs in here, so that we'd be able to see it. Do things like that. getting some VODs in. Getting some like actual reminders set up. Anyway, I've got a lot of goals. Speaking about goals doesn't actually achieve them, so there's not much merit to it. But that is sort of the plans going forward. Definitely, I'm thinking Sword Timber starting on Thursday. If we do a Saturday stream, it'll either be Blender or more likely it would just be a game. Maybe we can make some actual headway on Stardew, although we're actually doing better than, certainly better than my last go. Or we might continue along with Elden Ring. Our character is terrifying, I'll admit, but I accidentally, while we were offline, did trigger the teleport to Roundtable Hold, which I think I exited fast enough to not save that, but I'm not sure. Pardon me. We'll see. But yeah, hopefully we didn't skip anything there. I took a terrible circuitous route, but I would love to actually get across the bridge of taxes one of these days. Anyway, that's enough rambling. I think I'm yawning. I think we've hit 10 o'clock my time. I probably ought to let y'all go. I ought to go start getting stuff uploaded and ready for bed. But it has been a blast. Thank you to the... I can't tell if that was 17 minutes or 17 seconds of viewership, but either way, absolute blast having you. Thanks to anyone who's been viewing. Thanks to anyone who's just been hanging out as users. If you're a bot that auto follows, I don't love those. They kind of fill up space, but if you're just dropping by, you're absolutely welcome. Blast to have you. Hope that we'll see you again sometime, but if not, obviously, no pressure. This is supposed to be a fun, chill space. I don't want anyone to feel peer pressured to hang out. So, until next time, have a good one, y'all. Sif Streams out.